Welcome back to another Doctor Who Big Finish audio drama review, however not in the format that you are expecting. As you can tell by the title of this video, this Big Finish review is in fact a little bit different. Now, since early 2016 on the Host Productions, I have of course reviewed the Doctor Who Big Finish main range, or as it is also known, the Doctor Who monthly range, of course featuring the 5th, 6th and 7th Doctors. And each and every month I have brought reviews of the Doctor Who Big Finish monthly range to this channel, reviewing each individual story. And that is about to change. I am not cancelling the Doctor Who monthly range reviews, however I am changing the format up a little bit, as the title suggests on this review. Instead of reviewing each monthly range release every single month, I have in fact decided to group the releases. If you are a fan of the monthly range, you will of course know that most of these releases are a part of a trilogy. Previously this year we've had the 5th Doctor Chameleon trilogy, and now currently we have the 7th Doctor and Mags trilogy, and I'm going to use that trilogy format and apply it to my very own reviews. And basically every 3 months on the channel, as opposed to every month, you will see a Doctor Who main range review coming out, and in that review I will be taking a look at all 3 of the stories that have been released over those 3 months. So in today's review I am in fact going to be taking a look at the Monsters of Gokroth, the Moons of Vulpana, as well as an alien werewolf in London. The main reason that I've decided to do this is simply because of an alteration generally in my personal life. A lot of things have changed since I started reviewing the Doctor Who Big Finish main range back in 2016, and I want to change along with the audience itself. I've noticed that the reviews generally are not as popular as the box sets that I review on this channel. I generally want to alter in order to make it more convenient for the viewers of this channel. Therefore the reviews are going to be a lot more concise and scripted, as well as narrated, in order to be around 4 to 5 minutes for each individual story. So that means that this new trilogy format of review will in fact be around 15 to 20 minutes long, instead of around 15 minutes per each individual story. To this being a new format, you guys are very important to me, and I want to know your opinions on this new format. I want to know feedback on how I can generally improve this series in order to make it better for the viewers. Therefore, after watching this video, please feel free to leave a bit of feedback in the comments section below, and that will be very much appreciated, and hopefully I will take those comments on board when it comes to the next monthly range review. I do believe in around September 2019, with of course the 6th Doctor and Perry. The Monsters of Gokroth begins the trilogy for Mags and the 7th Doctor's adventures. Its main aim to establish Mags once more after her previous appearance within the greatest show in the galaxy. I must admit, I actually went into this story with very little knowledge of her character, even forgetting her whole wolf side and personality. So I was in fact in for quite a surprise when she transformed into the wolf for the first time. In the later half of this story, the Doctor explains that he has seen something within Mags and wanted to catch up with old business, presumably before his incarnation comes to an end. This was an excellent moment written by Matt Fitton, and felt very much in character as something that the 7th Doctor would do. After all, he is an incredibly mysterious version of the Doctor. Jessica Martin, who portrays Mags, is a rather interesting choice of companion, with this story exploring the ideas that she is struggling to fit in within society no matter what planet she goes to, after leaving the psychic circus. The narrative of the Monsters of Gokroth itself is rather dark in its initial approach, and certainly wasn't what I was first expecting. Almost a Doctor Who does Frankenstein tale, dealing with the concept of mutation. Andrew Fettes, who plays Gore, is a great example of this, with his character being looked down on and seen as inferior simply because of his mutated side. Meanwhile, you have characters such as Varna, played by Jeremy Hitchin, who plays a travelling showman, part bounty hunter, who experiments on the mutated beings in order to control them. This in itself is quite a nice hark back to the psychic circus. Naturally, Matt Fitton has wrote many Big Finish audio dramas over the years, and he is without a doubt an incredibly talented and creative man, although I do feel, in my opinion, that the early half of this story may take a little bit of time in order to fully get going. In my opinion, this story has quite a lot to establish, be it within the introduction of the characters as well as the actual location. This may confuse some, as it did for me upon first listen. So do be warned that if you are a new listener to Big Finish or are more used to new series style of scripts, this story is much slower in its pace. Alternatively, this could be seen as a benefit, as once everything has been established, you understand clearly who each person is, as well as the surrounding location for the episode. At first glance, the society of Gokroth may be considered as the victims. However, as Fitton establishes more aspects of the plot, the listeners may learn that this is not fully the case, with tensions growing against the different fractions within Gokroth society due to their different beliefs. This is a nice and unexpected twist that adds another level to the characters. Overall, The Monsters of Gokroth, as written by Matt Fitton, is a rather fun science fiction adventure, introducing Mags back into Doctor Who once more. The concept of mutation and slavery in this story offered a dark yet welcome theme I was not expecting, making the episode feel like a Frankenstein-inspired plot. However, I do have some concerns with Mags that left me a little bit undecided about her character. So far she seems to be rather mysterious, but ever so slightly underdeveloped. I feel there may be something I am missing with her character that I suspect, or at least hope, will be explored in the remaining 2 adventures within this trilogy. The Moons of Vulpana, written by Emma Reeves, is the second story from the 7th Doctor and Mags trilogy from the Big Finish main range of 2019. From the very start, it is clear that this trilogy will be following a much more darker and gothic tone compared to the other 7th Doctor stories that we have seen released in recent years. This story continues the gothic vibe, seeing Mags travel home with the Doctor's help, the aim in order to give her a sense of belonging and to find herself as a person, after previously struggling on the different planets that she has visited after the events of the Psychic Circus. I believe that this decision was in fact a great idea, considering that one of my main worries with the previous release, The Monsters of Gokroth, was that I felt a sense of detachment from Mags, not really knowing much about her as a person. Sometimes this is in fact good, having a sense of mystery. However, at the same time, if done badly, it can in fact come across as a lack of development. This story, in effect, works very well as a form of origin story for the planet of Vulpana, where the alien race of wolves, Mags' very own species, inhabit, and are divided into the 4 great packs, who are also dedicated to the 4 different moons of Vulpana. Although in a sense this does not delve directly into Mags' past personally, it still does provide further context into her species, and in turn making the listener know a little bit more about her as a person, or at least her transformation into the wolf kind. Immediately on arrival, Mags is spotted by one of the packs and is taken in for shelter, along with the Doctor as one of her servants. It is later discovered that she is in fact a pureblood, and therefore is a valuable asset to the pack sustaining their future. The brothers of the pack are nicely acted by Peter Bankhull, Sean Knob, as well as Arfan Shamaji, each being very different in their personality whilst trying to win over Mags. The story itself continues this animal-like behaviour throughout, really helping present not only the customs and beliefs of Vulpana, but also simultaneously uncovering a rather hostile side within the species. The music and sound design for this story have both been created by Steve Foxon. He has certainly done a very good job on making the story feel different atmospherically, the story itself having an almost medieval vibe in the music that is used. If you are a fan of the 7th Doctor being a very key part of each story, then this episode may not be one for you, as I personally felt that 7 almost lurked in the shadows of the narrative throughout the majority of the tale, only stepping in when needed. This story is very much focused on Mags, which was certainly essential for this trilogy to work. The ending act does, however, see a much stranger side to the 7th Doctor, which highlights the nature of this rather unusual Doctor-companion relationship, which I think is a part of the story that I did very much enjoy. So far within this trilogy, we have seen, both within the monsters of Gokroth as well as the moons of Vulpana, we've seen some rather unpleasant species. These adventures are not light-hearted in the style of the early 7th Doctor era TV stories, but the adventures themselves are much more gothic and dark. So if this is your style, then so far this trilogy may be worth your purchase. Therefore, I do think that it would be fair to say that this trilogy will not be for everybody, and I would recommend them more for an experienced Big Finish listener over a fan who wants to be introduced to the Doctor Who Big Finish main range. Whilst the story is interesting and Emma does do a great job at inventing Mags's homeworld, this episode may lack in appeal to some fans. So far we have seen 2 adventures on 2 separate worlds, therefore it only makes sense to return to Earth for the final story for this trilogy, An Alien Werewolf in London, written by Alan Barnes. This story is a lot of fun and by far my favourite story of this trilogy. Seeing Sophie Aldred back playing Ace, which is a lovely touch, and she is as natural as per, slipping back into the role with incredible ease. One of the best incentives of her return is seeing her interactions with Mags within the first part, like 2 friends catching up over an old memory. Sylvester McCoy is also on top form with 7, always being one step ahead, almost like he is a magician or a performer. Unlike other Doctors, when 7 talks, he pretty much always has the centre of attention, always being the most intelligent person in the room. Sylvester creates an atmosphere with his performance on a number of occasions. This story's focus is the family of vampires known as the Ferratu, who have lived on Earth scattered across Europe for hundreds of years, after arriving from another planet. Having vampires meet Mags, a werewolf, was an inspired choice from Alan Barnes, 2 areas of myth and folklore coming together. Especially when the script involves a 3rd alien being the Sin Eater, that is a threat to both Mags and the Ferrat family. The Ferrat family of vampires are really nicely represented through the brother and sister, Rowesha and Raymond, played by Lara Lemon and Gideon Turner. Even though we only hear the presence of the rest of the family in the background, this still gives the illusion of almost a cult or powerful family of vampires. The characters themselves are a great combination of traditional vampire media, but also with an additional few science fiction unique elements in there too. This trilogy so far has had the theme of Mags feeling uncomfortable within her own body, the Doctor answering a summons from Ace leading to 1990s London, and in particular Camden Town, is a superb location choice, an area of London almost built on loud personality, punk culture and unique identity, subtly making Mags feel a little bit more comfortable within herself. After 3 stories, this episode for me is the one that made Mags stand out. Jessica Martin pulling some great performances when needing to cope by herself without the Doctor around. Also included within this story is Jacob Collins-Levy playing a character called Rufus, an Australian actor from a popular soap opera from that time period. The inclusion of this within the plot originally confused me, as it didn't really feel like it connected with the vampiric theme, and yet by the final episode all of these components fit together and it made a lot of sense, creating a great coherent story that reminded me of the 2006 episode The Idiot's Lantern. I often think that earthbound Big Finish stories are the obvious way to observe the production choices of an audio drama, due to it being in an earthly familiar setting. When on alien planets, these choices often become a little bit harder to spot. The directing from Samuel Clements, the production by Emma Haig, and the writing style of Alan Barnes combine together to create an effective contemporary adventure. With many locations, an alien werewolf in London gives the appearance of a blockbuster. This is also complemented very well by Joe Miner's sound as well as music score, making the episode feel fresh and certainly not restricted to challenge the classic Who styles. In conclusion, An Alien Werewolf in London is a brilliant way to conclude this trilogy with Seven and Mags. A really fun and enjoyable adventure that felt more modern rather than classic in its narrative choices. The Ferratu family of vampires were a great touch, seeming very powerful, and the Sin Eater made for a great threat, both to them as well as Mags. Do be warned though, however, that this story does have a little bit of duplication and personality swapping, meaning that this may catch out some listeners, much like how it did with me upon first listen, although it shouldn't really take away too much from your listening experience. Most importantly, this episode proved to me, a little bit more so than the others, that the future of the Mag stories certainly have potential, if they were to adapt to the styles used within this adventure. And now that the foundation episodes are out of the way, it could make for some great stories to come. Join me next time in the Doctor Who Big Finish main range reviews, where I will be taking a look at the latest 6th Doctor and Perry trilogy, featuring Memories of a Tyrant, Emissary of the Daleks, as well as Harry Houdini's War, which will be available around September time. So thank you for watching this very first trilogy review on the Host Productions of The Monsters of Gokroth, The Moons of Vulpana, and An Alien Werewolf in London. I hope you have enjoyed this new format, and as I mentioned at the very start of this review, feedback will be much appreciated in the comments section below. Of course, overall for this trilogy, it is quite a mixed bag of adventures, and of course the main story for me was An Alien Werewolf in London, a thoroughly enjoyable adventure. The other two, The Monsters of Gokroth and The Moons of Vulpana, are also really interesting world-building releases that are set on two completely different alien worlds, and I really do love the way that they actually incorporate in the problems that Mags has had throughout the stories into the actual narratives themselves. So overall, all three stories are very interesting. If you are more a fan of Gothic Doctor Who, then the first two adventures will certainly be up your street. And then, of course, the series finale, the trilogy end, which is, of course, An Alien Werewolf in London. That one is a lot of fun and something of which that I certainly recommend to those people who are less experienced Big Finish listeners or simply want a bit of 7th Doctor fun with a lot of good scenes between Mags and the 7th Doctor. So thank you very much for watching this review. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have any questions about these three adventures, then please do leave them in the comment section below, and I will reply to them at some point in the near future. And as per usual, stay tuned for more content on the Host Productions absolutely every single week, and I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.